Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Movie Goodness, where we examine life through cinema here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and today we are going to talk about my favorite time of the year, or my favorite movie going time of the year, and it is none other than the summer movie season. This is the time of the year where studios throw out all of their blockbuster tentpole films that is supposed to appeal to everyone. There's something for everyone. And quite honestly, I would say the last 10, maybe you can go back 15 years, summer movie season hasn't been uh, as as popping as it used to be. It doesn't have that same oomph like it was when I was growing up, because when summer rolled around, that you was getting the best of the best. You was going to get the giant action movies. You were going to get the big screwball comedy films. You were going to get the sci-fi action space opera type films to come out in the summer. All the other times of the year, that's where you got your dramas and your little lower echelon films, and not to put any stank on any films that came out in the spring or the fall or the winter, but I'm saying like the big blockbuster films, the $100 million budget films, which is a small budget these days, but in regards of the 90s and the early 2000s, around that time, and that's where you got the big blockbuster films. So I, I was kind of hesitant going into this year. Last year I thought was going to be a big summer movie going year, but it really wasn't. You had some good ones. You had some good ones, but nothing that wowed you. And a lot of that is because of the need for Hollywood studios to put out reboots and remakes and sequels, and we've seen all of these films before. We've done this before. Yeah, you put a new twist on it, and don't get me wrong, I enjoy a sequel or a reboot or a remake as much as the next man, but just so much. It just has been so much. It's nothing original. Lately we've been getting some original content. Well, let's be honest, we get a lot of original content, but nobody goes to see it. Nobody actually goes to see it. As much as you read online how people are just screaming, you know throwing their fist up at the clouds, talking about, oh, we need original, we're tired of the same old comic book movies and all this here, but you don't go see the original films when they come out. And it's what Hollywood is going to do. What these studios are going to do. They're in it to make money, so they're going to continue to make the things that make them money. And that's why we get these remakes and reboots and so on and so forth. So I hope it changes. It looks like there's a glimmer of light there in some instances, but not so much. But I say all of that to say this summer movie season is geared up to be an old school summer movie going experience type summer. It feels like it because we are getting a variety of choices this summer. It's going to be action. You're going to have comedy. You have horror. You have comic book movies. All of it is covered this year, and I'm excited. And it's almost to the point every weekend there's something. I mean, every weekend. And we're going to go over a few today. This is Movie Goodness, most anticipated summer movies of 2025. And I'm only going to talk about 16. It's only 16 films. I say only. It's 16 films that are top on my list. And they're in no order. They're not ranked because I don't know what these movies have to have in store for us. So I can't say, ooh, this is the one I want the most. Even though I'm lying to you. I'm I'm lying to you because there are a couple in here that I am super excited for. I'm going to beat down the doors of my theater to go see opening night, if not sooner, if I get the opportunity. But all of these films, all 16 of these films that I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to the theater to see opening day. So I'm going to break it down, uh, going from the earliest release to the latest release, and we're covering from May to August. And I know what you're probably saying, well, summer doesn't officially start till June. Well, tell the studios that because it used to be Memorial Day weekend. That would be the unofficial start of summer. And that's when you get your first big blockbuster tentpole film. Well, lately it has been kind of creeping backwards, and this year we're getting it the first weekend in May. And so we're going to start in May, go all the way to August, 16 films. And I'm going to tell you why I am super excited for each film on my list. Now, these are just the 16 that I picked out of the hat. There are many more that I'm excited to see. There are TV shows that are coming out this summer that I'm excited to see, but it's so much. I will be here until next summer talking about. So I just chose these few. So let's start off. Since it's right around the corner and I already have my tickets for it. May the 2nd, we have Marvel Studios Thunderbolts with the asterisk. And I'm excited for this because of the asterisk, because I don't know what it means. I have an idea. I think I know what it means. I'll say it. It doesn't matter. I think that is an asterisk by it because these aren't the Thunderbolts, as you know from the comics. If you're a comic book fan, I think this group, these little group of ragtag anti-heroes will become the new Avengers. They are the Avengers. And so they put the asterisk by it because by the end of this film, they will be Avengers, not Thunderbolts. But that's just my theory. But as for right now, we're calling them Thunderbolts because that's the name of the movie. And this is from Marvel Studios. It's going to be the 36th film in the MCU. This film stars Florence Pugh, Sebastian Stan, Wyatt Russell, David Harbour, Hannah John Kamen, and Julia Louise Dreyfus. And in the film, a group of anti-heroes are caught in a deadly trap and forced to work together on a dangerous mission. I am excited for this one. This is probably my most excited I've been for a Marvel film since Endgame. Well, let me take that back. Since Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And you know, this multiverse saga has just I'm not going to say it stunk. I'm not going to say that it fell flat. It just didn't live up to expectations. And I think a lot of that is because we were left with such a perfect ending to the Infinity Saga, you know, with Avengers Endgame, how it all wrapped up so perfectly, how it was done so perfectly, and it had its flaws there. Every movie in the Infinity Saga was not perfect. And, you know, they had some stinkers in there, but for the most part, it was good and it wrapped up nicely. And so to really start over, because that's basically what you're doing here, is a different saga. We're telling a different story. It was hard, and I think a lot of people couldn't wrap their heads around it. And it suffered for that. Then it was so much. It was so much going on. Along with the films, you had Disney Plus come into the picture. Now you have Disney Plus shows, and it plays a factor in the films as well, you know, because you have a couple of characters that's in Thunderbolts that were introduced on Disney Plus. And so you're going to go see this movie and awaiting a backstory for certain characters, and we already got the backstory if you watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier and so on and so forth, and you're gonna be lost if you're not up to par with every single piece of content that has come out of Marvel Studios. And I think it's suffering for that, on top of the fact that a lot of these films, these stories that they're telling in this saga, just have not had the same joy, that we got in the first three phases of the MCU. And so I'm glad that it's coming to an end. This saga is coming to an end. But before we get to the end, we're getting Thunderbolts, and this isn't the only film from Marvel Studios that will come out this summer, but it is the first of this summer season. And I'm excited. I'm truly excited because this looks like an old school Marvel film. And I say old school like it was 50 years ago, but going back to phase 1, phase 2 of the MCU, that's what this feels like. At least that's what the trailers are giving. It feels like an old school Marvel film. Now, will it deliver? We'll find out on May the 2nd. Thunderbolts. Next on our list, film that comes out on May the 16th, and this is the 6th installment to this supernatural horror franchise, and it is Final Destination Bloodlines. I am a huge Final Destination fan. And I'm saying that with my whole chest right now, because if you would have asked me this a year ago, I would have said, hey, it's all right. Those movies were fine. But after they announced this, well, they announced this a while ago, but I never really paid it no mind because, like I said, I wasn't really, anchored in the Final Destination lore like that. I didn't run to the theater every time one of those movies came out, but I did watch every single one of them. But I saw the trailer for this film, and it just clicked in me. I started thinking back to all of the Final Destination films, all 5 of them that have been released. And I was like, my God, I love those movies. And I actually sat down one weekend and watched. Well, actually, it wasn't a weekend. It was one day. It was one Saturday. I put it on my mind. I woke up that morning. I watched the first one, and I went all the way to the 5th one. And didn't stop. No breaks. It was all gas, no breaks while watching the Final Destination films. And I immediately went back to why I enjoyed those films, and I end up loving those movies even more and appreciating them even more. And then I thought about this upcoming film, and I got just over the moon excited. Like, man, this is a storied franchise. Why has it taken so long for us to get it? And I don't know why. Honestly, I don't know why. I guess this is one of those guilty pleasures that a lot of people talk about, but it is definitely a guilty pleasure for me. I love the Final Destination films, and Final Destination Bloodlines looks like it's going to live up to those expectations. Final Destination Bloodlines, the premise of it is a college student experiencing a recurring nightmare that retells her family's demise returns home to find the person who can prevent it. This, if you've seen the trailer, you pretty much know what it is. Many years ago, this woman, she was in this restaurant, and like this tower, it looked like, what's the name, the Space Needle that's in Seattle, but it wasn't the Space Needle, I don't think, but it's that style of like a restaurant. And she has this premonition that the building collapses, but before the building collapses, she gets everybody out and saves them, well, at least some people out and saves them. And you know how the rules of Final Destination go. So death never came back for her, or didn't come. She's been dodging death. And now it's coming back for the family because technically, if Death's plan would have worked out the way it was supposed to, none of her children or grandchildren would have lived. And so Death now has to take out everybody in the family and everybody's family who survived that collapse due to her saving him. I'm like, man, this is brilliant. This is brilliant. And when you watch the trailer, they tie in some of the previous films, with the plane and the accident on the freeway with the logs and all this other stuff. I'm like, this is genius. I am so invested in this. And if that didn't hook you, maybe this will. This marks the final appearance of the late great Tony Todd. He passed away last year, but this was his final performance. He was in the previous Final Destination films. I think he was the coroner or the mortician or whatever he was designated as. They never really gave him a name in those movies. But he returned for this film, and this was his final performance before he passed away. And so if that doesn't hook you in, maybe this one will. The story. This film was developed by John Watts. If that name sounds familiar, John Watts just gave us Star Wars Skeleton Crew on Disney Plus, which was really good. But he also directed the Tom Holland Spider-Man films. Homecoming and Far From Home and No Way Home. He directed all of those films. So he has quickly become one of my favorite filmmakers in Hollywood. But he was initially going to direct this film, make this film. But I don't know what happened, but he didn't. But he did write the story for this. So this idea about the family and stuff like that, this was John Watts' idea. So I am super excited for this, if you can't tell. Final Destination Bloodlines will creep into theaters on May the 16th. Now, ladies and gentlemen, speaking of final, I have a final mission for us to go on if you choose to accept it. The final film, quote unquote, or at least the final film with Tom Cruise involved with it, quote unquote. Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning. Yes, we finally get the last film in this franchise, according to Tom Cruise. Now, he said that years ago. I think it was after part 4 that was supposed to be his last one, and here we are, 4 more films later in this franchise, and we're going down this road again. Initially, this was going to be Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2. If you remember, Dead Reckoning Part 1 came out in 2023, and it was supposed to be a 2-parter, that hence the name, but it didn't do as well as initially thought. That it was, they thought it was going to be a $1 billion film because Tom Cruise was fresh off of Top Gun Maverick, which saved the movie theater, as they say, grossing $1 billion, and it earned every penny of it. Top Gun Maverick was amazing. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, not so much. It as much as I love this franchise, they've had some misses in this franchise. This was one of them. And I enjoyed Dead Reckoning Part 1. It just didn't have the gravitas of the other films, Tom Cruise felt old in that movie. He felt old. He felt his age, to me, in that movie. But overall, it was good. So after it didn't perform the way they wanted it to perform, Dead Reckoning Part 2 was quickly changed to The Final Reckoning. And so Christopher McQuarrie, he's returning to write and direct. I think he did 3 or 4 of these movies. At least the last 4, I believe. I know he did, of course, Dead Reckoning Part 1, Rogue Nation, and What was the other one? Fallout. So yeah, he did this is his fourth one. And so he's done the last four. He's returning. Of course, Tom Cruise is returning, Haley Atwell is returning, Vin Rames, Simon Pegg, Vanessa Kirby, Isa Morales, um Angela Bassett is popping back up in the franchise. It's geared up, and going by the trailers, this wraps up the entire franchise because there are nods to the very first Mission Impossible film and uh the other films within. So this is supposed to be a combination of all of those films. So I am intrigued. I'm not excited, but I am intrigued to see how they're going to wrap up this story. And so we shall see. This movie had an estimated budget of $400 million. And no, I'm not throwing a number out there. This is the actual budget for this movie. 400 million. It is one of the most expensive movies ever made. I need to see that. And normally I don't go to movies and judge it for its budget. But lately, like I be seeing these numbers thrown out there, and then when I see the movie, I'm like, where that money went? where where did they spend that money? Because it sure wasn't on the quality of this film. But we'll see, man. I know a lot of that money going to Tom Cruise. I know a lot of it is going to the stunt performers and all the craziness that he's going to perform in this film because it's Tom Cruise. It's going to be some wildness. You saw him hanging on to a biplane wing. It looked like he's diving into the Atlantic, or I mean the Arctic or something. I don't know. The dude is insane. He is insane, and I'm here for it. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning drops in theaters on May the 23rd. And will this be Tom Cruise's last go around as Ethan Hunt? We shall see. Moving over a week later on May the 30th, we're going back in time. We're going back to 1984, I think. It was either 84 or 85. And just pluck the nostalgia strings all over the place. When Karate Kid came out back in the day, everybody everybody thought they were a kung fu master. I remember everybody thought that the crane kick was like a finishing move in in Mortal Kombat or something, because I've seen so many fights when I was younger, at least in elementary school, when kids thought that they will whip that crane kick, that was it. I'm about to finish this fight, and I saw them get demolished because it wasn't a movie. But in any event, that film has stuck through. Has lasted the test of time. Just look at Cobra Kai on Netflix. It's still a popular show, even though it ended about a month or so ago. But everybody still loves Karate Kid, and so why not go back to that well? On May the 30th, we get Karate Kid Legends. And yes, Ralph Macchio will return as Daniel Russo in this film. And joining him will be Jackie Chan from the Karate Kid. What was it? A reboot or I don't know what it was with Jaden Smith. And, it was a different Karate Kid. I actually liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it. But they're going to blend these two worlds together. And these two, Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio, will come together to train a new fighter in this new film. And for that reason, that's why I'm excited for it. I'm not a Karate Kid stan. I'm not like, oh man, Karate Kid, like Cobra Kai. I didn't watch the last season of Cobra Kai because I just got tired. I went through every single season of Cobra Kai, and I just gave up at the last. I just couldn't do it. I got through the first 2 episodes, and I can't do it. And I heard that the latter half of that season, because they split it in two. I heard that the second part of the final season was great. I am going to go back and watch it because I gotta complete it. That just gotta happen. And so, I can't leave myself hanging, and so I will revisit it. But I had to take a break from it because it lost its magic from the first few seasons there. But I'm still a fan of this franchise. I'm a fan of this property, and I'm a big fan of Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio. I'm glad Ralph Macchio is getting his flowers, aren't you? I mean, doesn't it feel good to see him getting his flowers? Yes, he is holding on to a character that he played 40 years ago, but the character is good. And he's good as the character. Otherwise, it wouldn't he wouldn't be working. He wouldn't be doing this role. But it is such a good character and he does such a good job at it that of course we got to bring him back. And I'm glad that he's coming back. I'm glad that he is truly invested cuz even in Cobra Kai, he really dove it back into it. It wasn't just for a paycheck per se. Early on it looked like it, but as the series kept going, you could tell that he was back in full swing of it. And I'm glad to see it. But I'm excited to see this film because I want to see how it goes, with a new flavor, a new twist, and a new style. So we shall see. Karate Kid Legends drops in theaters on May the 30th. Now we move on to the month of June. And June has some goodies as well. Starting off on June the 6th, we get From the World of John Wick, Ballerina. Or just Ballerina, whatever you want to call it. But this is the action thriller directed by Len Wiseman, who directed the Underworld films. He's diving into this John Wick universe with this film. This is the 5th film in the John Wick franchise. And yes, Keanu Reeves pops up in this movie. Now, I know spoilers if you haven't seen John Wick Chapter 4. Yeah, John Wick did not live at the end of that film. But did he? Because they announced last week that Keanu Reeves is returning to do John Wick 5. So I guess he did live. But in any event, he's in this film. But I think this is set in between part 3 and part 4, if I'm not mistaken, from what I read. But in any event, the leading role here goes to Ana de Armas, who, man, I'm glad to see her in this because after watching her in No Time to Die, the James Bond film, she was only in one scene, but she was amazing in that one scene with the action and the acting there. And she's a really good actress. I don't know why we don't see more of Ana de Armas. Not to mention she's beautiful, but she can act as well. But I'm excited to see this new world that they're expanding upon, and along with Keanu Reeves hopping back into this world, you have Ian McShane coming back. You have the last performance in his final screen performance of Lance Reddick. He plays the concierge, in the Continental, and he filmed his part of this film before he passed away. This movie, and I know you're saying Lance Reddick died like 3 years ago. Yeah, I know. This movie was filmed 3 years ago. This movie has been pushed back and went through reshoots, and according to some reports, depending on who you trust or believe, they basically reshot this movie because the original version was so bad. I don't think Keanu Reeves was in it. The plot was kind of bad, and I think Len Wiseman he wasn't involved with the reshoots. Yeah, somebody else was. I think Chad Skahinsky, who directed all of the other John Wicks came back and did the reshoots. So this is basically going to be a John Wick film. So I don't know what happened with Len Wiseman. Maybe his version wasn't that bad. I mean, Len Wiseman is not the strongest director. He did decent with the Underworld films, but I didn't like Live Free or Die Hard. Uh, I did when it first came out because I was happy to see Die Hard, but you know, it didn't age well. That movie does not age well, and it does not work for me. I watched it recently. In fact, it was on one of those channels. But I'm like, man, this is not a good movie. But anywho's, from the world of John Wick, Ballerina takes place between the events of John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum, and Chapter 4, and we follow Eve, a ballerina assassin, begins to train in the assassin traditions of the Rusa Roma and sets out to exact revenge for her father's death. So she's basically the female John Wick. So I'm all in on that. I can't wait for this. From the world of John Wick, Ballerina drops into theaters on June the 6th. Moving over to June the 20th, a film that, my God, people, this movie looks bananas. Years ago, I watched a movie called 28 Days Later, and it freaked me out because at that time, you know, you watch zombie movies and, you know, the zombies are moving like snails and can't, you know, you can run from them, which is fine, but you can walk past a zombie. But to watch a movie like 28 Days Later where, and these aren't zombies, these are infected, but, you know, they're zombies. But anyways, they run. They are running. They are coming. And it ain't like they're going to run out of breath. You know what I'm saying? It get tired. So you literally running for your life for these things. And it was just frightening. Just adding that element to it was super frightening. Well, we fast forward to 2025 and we're getting 28 years later. And this is a post-apocalyptic horror film produced and directed by Danny Boyle, who gave us 28 Days Later, as well as the returning writer of that film, Alex Garland. This is the third film in the franchise. It follows 28 weeks later, from 2027. I like that one. It wasn't as good as the first one, but it was still good. 28 years later stars Jodie Comer, Aaron Taylor Johnson, and Ray Fiennes. And in this film, 28 years after the rage virus escapes a medical research laboratory, survivors have found ways to exist amidst the infected. One group lives in a small island connected to a mainland by a single heavily defended causeway. When a father and his son leave the island on a mission into the dark heart of the mainland, they discover secrets, wonders, and horrors of the outside world. I am so hyped up, man. Those trailers for 28 years later, I'm good. Take my money, man. This looks frightening. This is frightening. Out of all of the genres, or should I say the subgenres in horror, you know, you have your monsters, you have your vampires, you have your werewolves, you have zombies and whatnot. My biggest fear out of those things are the zombies are infected. Because in my brain, out of all of the possible things that could happen, I don't think a vampire is going to come and bite me on the neck. You know, I don't think a werewolf is going to come and get me. But a zombie or an infected, yeah, I think that can happen. I honestly think that can happen. And that freaks me out. And you may ask yourself, well, why do you watch these? I don't know. I don't know. I love them. I love all the you know, the George Romero, Return of the Living Dead's, Dawn of the Dead's, Day of the Dead. I love zombie movies, but I'm scared to death of them. Scared to death. I have trouble sleeping after movies like that. It took me 2 days to sleep, to actually get some good sleep after 28 days later. It was a scene in it, and we're gonna get back to this show, but it popped in my head and it's driving me nuts. It was a scene in 28 Days Later when was it Brandon Gleason? I think he was in it. Brandon Gleason got infected. A drop of blood from one of the infected dropped in his eye or in his mouth or something. I can't remember. And immediately he was telling everybody, run, run. He was like freaking out. And he was like, run, run, get away, get away. And like 2 seconds later, boom, he was infected. It was like that, because normally you watch movies like that and somebody get bit or infected by one of these individuals, and they'll die first. You sit there and cry, give you some time. You got some time. There was no time there. It was like boof. It was wax on, wax off, and it was off to the race. It is frightening. That scares me to death, and I'm here for it. 28 years later, will have me sleeping with the lights on June the 20th. We move on to June the 27th, and we get a racing film. And this is F1, and it is directed by Joseph Kosinski, the man who gave us Top Gun Maverick, Oblivion, and Tron. Did he do Tron? I think he did Tron Legacy. I could be mistaken, but I think he did. But in any way, he's doing F1, and this film stars Brad Pitt, Damson Idris, and Kerry Condon, and Javier Bardem. So that's awesome as well. And like I said, this is a racing film, F1, Formula One, and that's for someone who's not a racing guy. I am all in on this. This looks amazing, and I really, the worst thing could have happened. I saw the trailer for this. I forgot what I went to go see, but it was in the theater with the sound. I believe it was in IMAX, and I'm hearing the sound of the cars revving up, and all that there, and the heightened music, and I'm like, oh man. Sign me up. I'm all for this. I love this, and I love the fact that Joseph Kosinski is directing this film. You saw what he did with Top Gun Maverick, the camera placement, to put the camera in the cockpit and on the planes, because they actually flew real jets in that movie. That was not CGI. And so he put you in the action, and you look at this trailer for this film, and he puts the camera in places you haven't seen on race cars while they're going 200 miles per hour around this track, and you feel like you're in the car, man. It's like the adrenaline starts pumping. That's how I felt sitting in the theater as those engines were revving up, and you feel it, and I wasn't even in what they call those theaters, the 4DX or whatever. I wasn't even in there, but you felt it, the seat shaking when when the cars were whizzing by. Oh man, I'm going to see this movie on the biggest screen possible if I can. F1 will speed into theaters on June the 27th. Also on June the 27th, it's going to have a little competition, if you want to call it that, but I think it's some real competition. This is going to be a weekend it may rival Barbenheimer. This may have Barbenheimer levels of competition, and it may seem silly, but you have to understand the fandom here. Coming out along with F1, we get a sequel to I guess you could say, surprise smash hit from 2022, Megan. Yes, we get Megan 2.0. And this is a science fiction film that uh just took the world by storm, especially me. I wasn't expecting nothing from Megan when it came out. Honest to God, I went to see that because I know I had to review it for the show, and I was like, "Well, I'll watch it. I'll see what it is. I'm not looking for nothing out of this movie. This movie was it was good. It was good. It was campy, but it leaned into the campy. And I saw the trailer for Megan 2.0, and I was like, okay, they are really leaning into the camp this time. I don't know if it's going to be as good as the first one, but I'm willing to chance it. I'm willing to give it a chance. I don't know what it is about Megan, but it is something exciting about this film. Returning in this film, you have Allison Williams and Violet McGraw, as well as Jenna Davis. And Megan 2.0 picks up 2 years after the events of Megan, and Gemma has become an author and an activist for regulations of artificial intelligence while trapping a still active Megan in a small robot doll that cannot do any harm. However, Megan's technology has been stolen and used by a defense contractor to create a military robot named Amelia, who becomes self aware, turns on her creators, and attempts an AI takeover. Facing imminent destruction, Gemma's niece, Candy, convinced her to rebuild Megan with advanced upgrades so she can fight Amelia. This 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 is the worst idea that you could ever have. It is so dumb, but I want to see this. This If you watch the trailer, this feels like a low budget Terminator 2 Judgment Day. It feels like and I'm cool with that because this feels like it's gonna be stupid and silly and funny, and you know it's not gonna take itself seriously, and you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to go there and dissect this film like, oh, that's not possible. Oh, that's not accurate and all that. It's Megan 2.0, man. Get over it. Now, what is scary about this movie is the AI element, because AI taking over is another great fear of mine because that can actually happen. But regardless, I'm all for it. Megan 2.0 comes out in theaters on June the 27th. All right, let's get to July. The month of July is going to be a slaughter fest. And not because any horror movies are coming out. I don't know if a horror movie is coming out or not, but it's going to be a horror, a house of horrors in the theater, because you have a tentpole blockbuster almost every weekend. And I mean big, big. The biggest movies of this summer, of this year, all come out in July. And it's not even close. And let me make it clear, I'm not talking quality wise, I'm talking more there's a lot riding on it franchise wise, and they're all in this 1 month pretty much going to be picking each other off. None of these movies I suspect are going to make $1 billion because they're so close together. But anything's possible. It depends on the quality. If these movies are super good, you're gonna continue. You're gonna go back to see it again and again and again, regardless of what comes out the following week. But we'll see. Let's start off with July the 2nd. We know that this is the big weekend. This is 4th of July weekend. Everybody's off of work. Families are together. Normally, 4th of July weekend is reserved for the biggest movie of the year, of the summer, I should say. And I don't know if this is going to be the biggest movie of the summer, but it is a big movie. It is part of a just ginormous. I don't know if dynamic is a word, but ginormous franchise, and that's the Jurassic Park franchise. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting another one. The seventh film in the Jurassic Park franchise, or more accurately, the fourth film in the Jurassic World franchise. And I know that confused a lot of people, but they are separate but connected. It's stupid, I know, but it is what it is. We are getting Jurassic World Rebirth, and this go around, we have Scarlett Johansson, Mahershala Ali, and Jonathan Bailey in this cast. It's directed by Garrett Edwards, who directed the one of those Godzilla films. I think it was the Godzilla film with Bryan Cranston and Aaron Taylor Johnson. I believe that's the one he directed. Not the best one, but he also directed Rogue One, which is arguably the best Star Wars film in the Disney era. And just a couple of years ago, The Creator with John David Rossington, which was a pretty good movie. So he dove into this Jurassic World franchise. Look, I have not been a big fan of the Jurassic World portion of the Jurassic Park franchise. I liked the first one, you know, but the rest after that were law of diminishing returns. It just got worse and worse after that. And I was really hoping that after the last one, what was it, Dominion? I was hoping that that was it. I was praying that that was it, because not only did they ruin the Jurassic World franchise, but they also ruined the Jurassic Park franchise, because they brought back Sam Neill and Jeff Goldblum and Laura Dern to reprise their roles in that film, and it was like, for what? It was just, it was so bad, and it was to the point you like, leave it alone. Or if you was gonna do another one, give it some time. Dominion came out in what, 2022, and 3 years later, okay, we're gonna do another one. I don't know why, but well, actually, let me take that back. I do know why, because no matter how bad Jurassic World Dominion was, it still made $1 billion. So Universal Pictures said, well, yeah, the movie sucked, but we're gonna make another one. We'll make another one. Let's put Scarlett Johansson in it. Let's put two-time Academy Award winner Mahershala Ali in it. Yeah, let's do that. And hire Garrett Edwards to direct it. And let's see how it turns out. Let's throw it against the wall and see if it sticks. And you know what? You know what's sad? I'm gonna go see this movie for some strange reason, and it's not because of the show. It's not because I'm gonna review it or nothing. Because I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker. I'm gonna go see it just like I went and saw the other ones, and I knew they were gonna be bad, but I still went and saw it. It reminds me of the Transformer films. And you know how the Transformer films just got worse and worse and worse and worse. But every time a trailer came out, I was super hyped for it. And I knew it was going to be bad. I knew it was going to be bad. But I still went and did it. I still spent my money to go see them. And it's the same thing for this franchise, because I loved it. The first movie, Jurassic Park, when it came out, it touched my soul, as it touched a lot of people's souls back in, what was it, 90 whatever. And I just can't let it go. I still have hope. Do I have hope in this? No, but we'll see. We'll see. This go around 5 years after the events of Jurassic World Dominion, Earth's environment has largely proven inhabitable to dinosaurs. The surviving creatures now reside in a remote tropical location, closely resembling environments where they once flourished. Zora, played by Scarlett Johansson, a covert operative, is recruited by a pharmaceutical company to collaborate with a paleontologist named Henry Loomis and a team leader named Duncan on a top secret mission. Their objective is to infiltrate a forbidden island, once the site of the original research facility for Jurassic Park, and locate the three largest remaining prehistoric species from land, sea, and air. The DNA of these creatures hold the key to a revolutionary drug capable of saving countless human lives. I'm gonna tell you something. I'm the premise of the movie is so stupid. You where do you get this research? That you need one. You need DNA from a land beast, a sea beast, and an air beast. Where what logic is that? That sounds like a video game. You know, it sounds like stages of a video game you got to get in order to get the key to open up the magic wardrobe or something. I don't know. This seems silly. This seems so stupid. But I'm crying right now because I know I'm going to the theater to see it. And so there you have it. Jurassic World Rebirth stomps into a theater on July the 2nd. Okay, now we move on to July the 11th. Now, this is, if I was going to rank it, this would be number one. And not because of how good of a film I think is going to be, but going back to what I was saying earlier about expectation, about how much is riding on a film as far as a franchise, as far as a studio. There's a lot on the line with this one movie, and it starts with Superman. Superman, which flies in the theaters on July the 11th. This is the first film in the DCU for Warner Brothers and DC Studios over there. And James Gunn, who is the head of DC Studios, also wrote and directed this film. This is a big film. If Superman crashes and burns, if it doesn't work, if it's a bad movie, if it doesn't make money, the rest of the DC universe is dead. It's over before it even started. And this it's scary. It's very frightening because I want this to work. Me being a huge DC fan, I am more of a DC fan than I am a Marvel fan, as a kid growing up. But the movies just haven't lived up to what I loved about the comics growing up. And I was hoping and praying that when James Gunn took over DC Studios, he was rebooting everything and starting from scratch, allegedly, and starting anew. He was going to recapture that feeling from watching the Christopher Reeve Superman from 1978. Yeah, all of that was going to be there. He's it's not just going to be a Superman movie. You're going to have more elements. You're going to have Guy Garner, Green Lantern in here. You're going to have Hawk Girl in here. You're going to have Lex Luthor in here. You have Mr. Terrific in here. It's a lot in this movie, and there's a lot riding on this movie. So far, so good. As far as the trailer, as far as what I've read up on it, from what I've seen of it, it looks like it's going to be good. But that's just promotional material. It's supposed to look good. That's the purpose of the promotional material. You're supposed to make it look good. For an example, using the same studio, using the same character, you think back to the promotion for Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. That trailer was amazing. But it told the whole movie. To a lesser extent, the Suicide Squad. Well, not the Suicide Squad, the one with Will Smith, directed by David Ayers. Probably the greatest trailer I ever saw was that Comic-Con trailer, the first trailer they ever released for that movie. And I was more hyped up for that movie than any other movie coming out that year. And that included Batman v Superman. I was so hyped up for Suicide Squad. That trailer, I still watch that trailer. Sometimes I'll pull it up on YouTube and watch that trailer. And I've seen the movie and was frustrated by the movie. But I will pull up that trailer and watch it because it was better than the movie. But the movie burnt you, and many movies have done that. And so just because the trailer looked good don't mean the movie is going to be as good as the trailer looked. And now the trailer wasn't picture perfect, I'll say that much. So that kind of gave me hope, to be honest with you, because if it was super good all the way around, I would have been scratching my head. Another example is Fantastic Four, not this one, but the one with Miles Teller and Michael B. Jordan and all. That Fantastic Four trailer was so good. I remember talking to my daughter at the time, and she like, you sure it's gonna be good? I said, baby, look at this trailer. It's impossible for this movie to be bad. I remember uttering those words to her. I said, it's impossible that this movie is gonna suck. Boy, was I wrong. I've never been so wrong about something in my life. It was the worst movie I ever seen. Anyways, I went on that whole tangent, but Superman, I'm supposed to be hyping it up. Superman, and I don't need to say it, the name alone. That's all you need to hear. David Cornsweet will don the cape for the first time as Clark Kent, Superman. You have Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, and just a plethora of other cast members. And this film explores Superman's journey to reconcile his alien heritage with his human family. And so I want to see this for multiple reasons. One, it's not an origin. We're not going to see him on Krypton being, at least that's what they say. We may get that, maybe a flashback scene or something, but it's not a true and blue origin story. He's already Superman in this film. Love that. I love that. We've seen the story. Everybody knows the story. If you never picked up a comic book, you know Superman's story. You know Batman's story. You know all of these people's story. We don't need origins at this point. Why waste a movie explaining something we already know? And so for that reason alone, I'm excited for it. But I think this is going to be great. I really do. James Gunn has not missed. And I hope and pray that this is not the one that he crashes and burns with. I hope that he continues his successful run. All of James Gunn films have been great in my eyes. I'm a huge fan of his, always have been. And so he has given me no reason to doubt him. So I'm not going to doubt him this go around. Superman will soar into theaters on July the 11th. I'm gonna sneak one in here for July the 18th that I'm not gonna say I'm super excited for, but I'm intrigued. I'm curious. I just want to see how it's gonna go. And it is, I know what you did last summer, and I know what you're saying to yourself. Kevin, that movie came out in 1987. No, I meant 97. No. I'm not talking about that. This is the reboot or it's supposed to be a sequel. This is supposed to take place after I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. It is like the third film. But they just chose to title it I Know What You Did Last Summer again. Well, whatever. Not again, but the same title. Whatever. We'll see. Returning in this cast is Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. from the original. Okay. that's that's cool. And so them returning with this new young cast, and uh, I love these little legacy films. I do. I think they're cute for what they are. I'm not over the moon excited for it because I never was a fan of that movie or the second one. I wasn't like a super fan. I thought it was all right. I didn't think it was bad. I just you never see me running to go watch I Know What You Did Last Summer. That wasn't it. Around that time you had Scream, that which was better, and you had other movies like that were better. But I don't know how this one is going to play out. But in any event, I am intrigued by it for the simple fact that you got Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. returning. I want to see how this all plays out with the rest of the cast and what this movie is truly about. I don't have a clue what their what the film is all about. But I mean, it's about what you did last summer, I guess. So we'll see on July the 18th. Something to kind of wedge in between these two big blockbuster films that are coming out this month, with Superman on one side, and we're moving over to the 25th here with another comic book film, this time from Marvel Studios. Yes, we have DC and Marvel going head to head 2 weeks apart from each other. I thought when they first announced the dates that one of these movies were going to move, that somebody was going to flinch. Nobody flinched. On July the 25th, we get the Fantastic Four First Steps. Another film that is a lot riding on it. There's a lot riding on it. This is the second MCU film to come out this summer, and it is the 37th film of the franchise and the first Fantastic Four of the MCU. The Tim Story Fantastic Fours with Jessica Alba and Chris Evans, that was in Fox. That horrible one that I mentioned a little while ago with Miles Teller and Michael B. Jordan, that was in Fox. And so this is the Marvel first family, and they will finally get the Marvel Studios treatment here. And this go around, you have Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm, and Eben Moss Backrack as Ben Grimm, the Thing. And man, this was perfect casting. I know a lot of names were floating around there when they were trying to nail down the cast. You had your Margot Robbie's as Sue Storm, cast rumors, Adam Driver as Reed Richards. The list went on and on, but they settled on these, and I say settle with all due respect because I think this is the perfect cast. I mean, Pedro Pascal kind of threw me when their first announcement, and honestly, every time Pedro Pascal is announced, it throws me. In whatever film he in, whatever property he is in, I'm like, really, Pedro? But then you see him in a role, you're like, oh, he's perfect. He's perfect. Because I questioned him with The Last of Us, and then The Last of Us came out, and I was like, oh, perfect. Perfect. I questioned him with The Mandalorian, and then I watched it, and I was like, perfect. Even though he's behind a helmet, and he really just does the voice, but he's perfect. And same thing here. I was like, really? And then that trailer came out, and I'm like, perfect. So he's just perfect. He fits in everything. I am super excited for this version of it. This looks amazing. This looks amazing. Clearly, I said Superman was my number one. It's really 1A and 1B with these two films because I'm a fan of Fantastic Four. Not so much that I read them in the comics. I didn't read many Fantastic Four comics. But I watched the animated series in the 90s, and I was a fan of that. But I always found them boring in the comics. That's why I never watched it or read it, I should say. But the movies thus far have not lived up to par. They aren't good movies. and one is the worst movie ever made, let alone worst comic book movie ever made. And for some strange reason, they can't nail down the Fantastic Four. And so, hopefully, prayerfully, they'll get it right this time. This go around, the Fantastic Four must protect their 1960s inspired retro futuristic world from the planet devouring cosmic being Galactics. I man, I'm telling you, that trailer had goosebumps ran over my whole body. I thought I had hives. I was just like shaking in the chair watching it. I'm like, oh my God, this looks so beautiful. The stretching from Reed Richards looks great. You know, the comic accuracy of Ben Grimm is perfection. I'm in Galactics. Oh my God, he isn't a cloud like he was in Rise of the Silver Surfer. He actually exists. I am all in on this movie. Yes, I'm pushing all my chips on the table. I'm excited for this. This film was directed by Matt Shakman, who was behind WandaVision, probably one of the most popular or well received shows on Disney Plus from Marvel Studios. And so him having this, and I mean the look, the feel, this feels like a 60s era film. Everything just works in this trailer. And so the movie, my God, I mean, they put a lot into this. I believe Kevin Feige was more hands-on in this film, you know, the making of this film. And so there's a lot on this because this is going to lead us into Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret War. So to kind of wrap up this multiverse saga. So this really, really needs to work. Otherwise, Doomsday is nobody's going to care. And so fingers crossed on July the 25th when we get the Fantastic Four first steps. Speeding on down to the final stretch here of the summer, we jump into the month of August, and this next film this next film is a sequel or reboot, I guess a legacy sequel, if you will, to a franchise that is near and dear to my heart. At least the first film in this franchise, which is one of the funniest movies of all time, The Naked Gun, with Leslie Nielsen. That was the funniest movie I have ever seen. They decided to make another one, and this go around is Liam Neeson. I am, as Frank Drebin Jr. Nonetheless, I was excited for this until I saw the trailer. And to be 100% transparent with all of you, the trailer did nothing for me. I did not chuckle. I didn't laugh. None of it worked in the trailer. And so I kind of convinced myself in my head that, okay, I just got to see everything in context. I got to see everything in its totality because this ain't going to work. The jokes just didn't quite land with me. Even the O.J. Simpson one, I should have laughed. Now I found it a little. I was like, okay, I kind of chuckled, but it was like, oh, it's low hanging fruit, and this franchise is better than that. And I'm saying that because I'm saying that, and it's one of the most offensive, cheeky styles of comedy you're ever going to get. But we'll see. And Liam Neeson in this role, I think it can work. Because Liam Neeson, he's a serious guy. But that's what you're supposed to be. Used to be Leslie Nielsen is a serious actor. At least he was, God rest his soul. He was a serious actor in these silly movies, and that's what made it work. And so I'm confident in Liam Neeson. I'm, for some strange reason, I'm not confident in nobody else involved here, as far as behind the camera. Akira Schaefer is directing this film from Lonely Island, and he's all right, but he's not the first name that comes to mind as far as directing a Naked Gun film. I, I'm kind of nervous about that. And you have Seth MacFarlane producing this movie, from Family Guy, creator of Family Guy and whatnot. As of late, I've kind of fallen off with Seth MacFarlane. It just, yeah, Family Guy was great. Ted, Ted is good. I actually like Ted in the show. Most recently, the TV show that was on Peacock. I like that. But his films, no, his films don't work. I didn't like uh A Thousand Ways to Die in the West, or whatever it was called. I didn't too much care for that. uh American Dad, I didn't too much care for. But you know, I'm not gonna throw the baby out with the bathwater. We'll see. We'll see how this go. Along with Liam Neeson in this film, you have Walter Hauser, CCH Pounder, Kevin Durant, Pamela Anderson, Cody Rhodes is in this movie. Uh, I'm curious. I'm curious. We'll see how this go. On August the 1st, we'll get the reboot or the legacy sequel, The Naked Gun. On August the 8th, we get a follow up from Zach Krager, who gave us Barbarian a few years ago. Barbarian came out of nowhere and just blew my mind. I mean, such a good horror film. I it was one of my favorite movies of that year. It's still to this day is rewatchable. I've watched it a few times since then. I've enjoyed it, and I've been anticipating his follow up. What's next for him? Well, his next film comes out on August the 8th, and it is Weapons, and it is a horror film that stars Josh Brolin, Julia Garner, Aaron Eggeright, Benedict Wong as well. And in this film, it follows a small community after a group of children mysteriously disappear overnight. Initially, Pedro Pascal was in the lead role before Josh Brolin took over, but Pedro Pascal had to drop out due to the Fantastic Four. So they cast Josh Brolin instead, which is kind of weird because Julia Garner is in this film, but she's in Fantastic Four as well. She's Shala Bell, the Silver Surfer in that film. But I don't think her role is that big to whereas she had to leave that production. But anyways, this I haven't seen nothing from this, but I'm anticipating it because I wanted to see Zach Krager's follow up to Barbarian, and going by what I read online, a couple of articles about people who know about the project, who read the screenplay for this film. This is a it was a sought after film before production. Studios were kind of vying for it and wanting to get into Zach Krager business because of this film. So I'm curious to see how this plays out. And then the synopsis is pretty interesting to see. You know, all the children vanish. All the children vanish. that is disturbing. So I would love to see what this is going to be. Once again, I'm anticipating this, and I haven't seen a still picture, a video, a trailer, or nothing from it. But yet and still, I am geared up for Weapons. Our final film that I am anticipating this summer comes out on August the 15th. It's a sequel to a film that I didn't think I was going to super be excited for, but when I watched it, the year it came out, I think that was in 2021. I was like, man, this is good. This is good. And it is none other than Nobody Part 2 or Nobody 2. And yes, man, we're getting a sequel to Nobody. Returning, you have Bob Odenkirk, and never in a million years would you have told me that Bob Odenkirk would be a action star. But but when you watch Nobody, you're like, man, this dude, where you've been holding back on us, Bob, and, and so I want to see what's next for him here. And man, that was such an exciting film. It was like John Wick, who settled down, retired, and have to get thrown back into this life that he left behind. And this is that was the premise pretty much, but it wasn't that. It's not in the same universe, but it, just to give an example of what that film was. And to see the sequel, that we're getting the sequel, sign me up. Returning with Bob Odenkirk, you have Connie Nielsen, RZA, Michael Ironside, Christopher Lloyd is returning in this film. The new additions to this film, you have Colin Hanks and Sharon Stone. I am excited for this film. This looks like it. Well, not looks, because I haven't seen a trailer for it, but it feels like it's going to be one of those bangers that we got back in 2021 with the first film. So I'm all in. Sign me up for Nobody 2. And so that will wrap up my most anticipated summer movies for 2025. All of these films are just, I mean, there's something for everybody, man. I mean, you have comic book movies, you have a comedy or two in here, you have science fiction films, you have horror films, nostalgic films. There is clearly something for everyone this summer. There's no excuse to be sitting at home doing nothing. There is a reason for you to get up and go out to the movie theater. But I would love to know, what is your most anticipated movie for this summer? Is it Superman? Is it Fantastic Four? Is it F1? Is it 28 years later? Let me know what is number one on your list. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for this show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, over on YouTube, subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to movie goodness here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for my breakdown of the most anticipated summer movies of 2025. I want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.